How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Doing something a little different today. I turned my camera off. I had so much going on at the house, and I've got to go to my other job later today. But I did want to speak on the happenings of the huge, and as I stated in the title, colossal upsets in the National Hockey League. The President's Champion Trophy winners basically were the Boston Bruins. And the streak of the curse continues with having the best record in the NHL, but this wasn't just any typical best record. In many people's eyes, this is the greatest hockey team of all time going into the playoffs. And I think what I marvel at the most with the Florida Panthers upset, without a doubt, has to be the sheer fact that for three consecutive nights in different games, Boston was so close to finishing them. And this is not the kind of resolve that you would expect from a team that's an 8 seed that basically made the playoffs, barely. No knock on the Florida Panthers. They have proven that they belong in this dance. But it's shocking. And after such a wonderful season for the Boston Bruins, I do think you have to question if certain key cogs in that roster are going to continue on with their careers. Bergeron is getting older as well as others. It's just a shock on so many levels. When I watched part of the game, I was not able to see the conclusion until I watched it after the fact on a replay on YouTube. But when I think about the magnitude of that kind of loss, it's a lot of times it's going to bring a team together. It similarly has the vibes. If I had to compare it to anything, likely the '07 Patriots. Because it's not just a 1 seed or the best record or the best team in the league. This is literally a historical team. And I think that is the true value of the upset we saw yesterday. And in addition to that, you have the defending Stanley Cup champions falling to the Seattle Kraken. I'm talking about the Colorado Avalanche. I don't measure that upset in the same breath for the sheer fact that I think for a good chunk of the year, the Avalanche were trying to overcome way too many injuries. But as far as the Eastern Conference goes, this undeniably opens up the lane for the winner of tonight's Game 7, whether it be the New Jersey Devils or my New York Rangers. Just shocking. There's no other word. I mean, even when you look at what happened in the NBA with Milwaukee falling, towards the end of the season, guest of the show, John Olson, who's a diehard Milwaukee fan, had alluded to how he felt that his team was a little vulnerable, for lack of a better word. But seeing the Bruins go down, the mighty Bruins, the year that they had, I mean, as a Ranger fan, I have said time and time again that is one team I did not want to run into. Also out east, a couple of days removed from the three-time defending Eastern Conference, previously 2 of those 3 seasons winning the Stanley Cup, talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, lost to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs get their first playoff series win in nearly 2 decades, which is phenomenal. And this is a series that last year was very intense and ended in 7 in a heartbreaking way. Toronto was able to finally get over the hump against a team that has had their number. Previewing the Rangers game tonight, short and simple and sweet. The New York Rangers must score first tonight to win. New Jersey has a heck of a track record when scoring the first goal. That didn't apply to the most previous game. And I think this is a classic matchup of youth versus experience. The New York Rangers roster is literally built to make a Stanley Cup run. New Jersey's game is predicated off of speed. In terms of goaltending, I think the Rangers undeniably have the edge. But, New Jersey's going to have that home crowd, and this has been a very bizarre series, where up until Game 5, no home team had won a series. The last 2 home teams held serve. Rangers and Devils, each 1-2 in their own buildings in this series, which is very hard to wrap my head around and understand. It's been a very wild playoffs. My prediction tonight, I'm going to go Rangers in a close one. I got the Rangers winning this thing 3-2 on the road and advancing. I do think this juncture, this kind of game, I think playoff experience is massive. And I also happen to think the Rangers have a better team. That'll be revealed. And sometimes the better team doesn't always win either. Keeping it in Madison Square Garden teams, very disappointing loss yesterday for the New York Knicks. This is a team that basically caught every break going into round two in terms of similarly to what's happening in the NHL, the one seed Bucks falling. Miami was a play-in team. Jimmy Butler has been putting it on a different level in terms of playoff performance. But I think the most disheartening thing for Knicks fans watching that game yesterday is that everything that worked in the first half, which was dribble penetration, getting to the rack, and finding open men, whether it be over the top for easy alley-oops or whether it be behind the arc, the shots were still coming in terms of availability and good looks, but the Knicks just could not hit a shot yesterday from beyond the arc. I'm never one to complain about the refs, even if I don't think they did a good job, because I feel that it's on the players to work around those things. But I must admit that after Jalen Brunson got hit with a technical foul, I do believe that the referees really took it a little personal. And then in addition to the MSG home crowd letting the refs hear about what they thought about their job, I do believe that the referees may have very well kind of ignored some calls that they could have called against the Heat. Bottom line is the Heat made adjustments that the Knicks didn't in the second half, and that's why the Heat won the game. Knicks were a top 5 team in the NBA on the road, and they essentially have to win a road game, possibly 2, assuming they don't drop another one at MSG. It's only one game. I do believe that there's a lot of overreactions going on, and I must admit, as a Knicks fan, I was very disgusted with the second half effort. No Julius Randle for game 1. I have been very critical of Julius Randle in that rotation, but I will call myself out to a level and say yesterday we certainly could have used Julius Randle. And of course, there's that curiosity with having a guy like an Evan Fournier on the bench who broke a New York Knicks franchise record for 3 points converted just a year ago. I understand that he's probably rusty, hasn't played in any kind of real game time in quite some time. You also have a former league MVP sitting on the bench. I would like to see Tom Thibodeau have the audacity to potentially put some of these guys back into the rotation if he feels that that someone just, quite frankly, isn't holding up to what they should be doing. I know it's risky, but I do think that when you take a player like, say, a Derrick Rose, he's not going to lose you a game. Knicks got to be better. When I think about how poorly the Knicks shot the ball yesterday, I think it's encouraging that they only lost by 7. They did have an excellent first half. Obi Toppin given an opportunity to play much more minutes as Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson actually shot an air ball at the free throw line and oddly enough hit the next one. Knicks got to do better. I think they could. I still think the Knicks are going to win this series, but game 2 is going to be pivotal. And yesterday, at the conclusion of the Knicks game, was the final game 7, the final game of the first round. And the Golden State Warriors are proving time and time again why they are that team that has hoisted 4 championships. Why they are that team that when all odds are against them, they always seem to find a way. Steph Curry putting down 50 points yesterday, just a tremendous performance. And I think the most impressive thing about what the Golden State Warriors accomplished yesterday is that this is a team that has struggled mightily on the road all year. To my recollection, only 11 wins on the road. They already have 2 victories against one of the toughest buildings against the Sacramento Kings in these playoffs. When the Kings won game 6 in Golden State, I honestly said the Warriors may very well finally be in trouble here. But the Warriors proved why they have that championship pedigree and why they are such a tough out for anyone that's going to face them. Western Conference playoffs heating up. We got the Denver Nuggets up 1-0 on the Suns. And we've got the Golden State Warriors that are going to be facing the Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers got into the playoffs as a 7 seed. I certainly don't view them as a lower seeded team. I think that's a team similar to Golden State that does have a championship pedigree, that their biggest concern was just getting into the dance and getting into the dance as healthy as they could possibly be. I think the Lakers, led by LeBron James, an aging LeBron James, but a guy who, throughout different junctures of his career, is a great facilitator and does make the people around him better. Lakers have a very deep team, and I think that's going to be a phenomenal series. I'm going to give my prediction on that shortly. And, on the topic of health, the New York Yankees just struggling mightily. Only a game over 500. Every team in the American League East is over 500. They're actually tied with the hated rivals, the Boston Red Sox, each at a 15-14 record. But I think the thing that is becoming a glaring situation with the Yanks, you're missing your two power guys. There is a possibility that Aaron Judge could be spending time on the injured list. We're going to get some clarity on that at some point today, according to manager Aaron Boone. Giancarlo Stanton is only about a week and a half, 2 weeks into what looks like possibly missing 6 weeks. Those are your two biggest home run hitters on that ball club. And when you take both those guys out, let alone one, that lineup is very naked. And then on the flip side, you have an issue and a situation where your pitching staff, going into the year from a projected level, you're missing two important starters in Luis Severino and Carlos Rodon, the newly acquired Carlos Rodon. I know it's only 29 games in. I know that a lot of people overreact in April. Today's the first day of May. But I must admit, as a Yankee fan and just someone who monitors and really watches baseball, I really do think the Yankees are in trouble. I don't think it's just a one-player situation. There's a lot of things going on in that clubhouse that are just not right. And I must admit that if the Yankees fall short of their goals and have a lackluster year and miss the playoffs, there could be some heads rolling, whether it be manager Aaron Boone, whether it be GM Brian Cashman, whether it be both of them. Brian Cashman has done a lot of great things for the Yankee organization. But I do believe that over the course of the last few years, there has been a little too much complacency. When you look at the money that team spends, and yes, they haven't been busting luxury tax thresholds, in part because of the fact that you are essentially feeding your competition. But having said that, they still have a very healthy payroll. And when you look at that team on paper, you expect more. Bottom line, yes, we have an issue in left. Arguably, we have the best offensive player in all of baseball in number 99. I'm hoping that he's not going to be on the IL. Giancarlo Stanton is a former league MVP. Josh Donaldson, former league MVP. Garrett Cole, perennial Cy Young candidate. Yesterday, Nestor Cortez, who has been one of their best pitchers over the course of the last couple of years, had probably his worst start as a professional. It's going to happen. Things happen. And, we have to give credit to Texas. They have a hell of a lineup. Texas Rangers are definitely trending upward. I think the two Texas teams are going to be making that division very exciting, talking about the AL West as the season progresses. But right now, speaking humbly and unbiased, I do believe that the best team in New York does reside in Queens. Again, only 29 games in for the Yankees. I believe the Mets may have played 30 or 31. Bottom line is they are both roughly around the same games played. As of right now, though, the Mets just look like a more believable team in terms of what they can do in October. Yankees have a lot to do, and I do think there's going to be some moves made if they intend on hanging around this year, because I don't think anyone saw the start that the Tampa Bay Rays were going to have. And right now, the Yankees are 8 games out of first, only a month into the season. I don't think anyone saw that. Before we get out of here, I do want to make a mention of the NFL draft and two particular teams that stood out to me in terms of being good teams last year, but thoroughly improving through this draft. Philadelphia Eagles and my New York Giants are the two teams that I wanted to highlight. What I really like about what the Eagles have done is that they are essentially getting 3 first-round talents in the first round. And I also think what the Eagles are truly trying to do is to recreate the Georgia defense that won the national title. You got to give credit to Howie Roseman and the way that he has been able to manipulate the cap and manipulate every aspect of how to improve their team while still being a top 5 team in the league. This is a team that barely lost the Super Bowl last year. Eagles are going to be a factor. And quite frankly, I think the Eagles are the favorite going into the season for the NFC. There's a lot to be decided, but they are going to be the favorites. Jalen Hurts got the huge contract. They also traded for running back DeAndre Swift, who is going to be added into a committee backfield, but he will be the main lead horse. Eagles are going to be a very tough out for anyone in the NFL. As my New York Giants go, I have to applaud their draft as well. Deonte Banks, possibly the best corner in this draft. I love the athleticism. I feel that this is a guy that, in addition to being a lockdown corner, also has the phenomenal leaping ability, which is vital in a division like that when you're dealing with some of the most athletic receivers in the league, like a CeeDee Lamb, like a A.J. Brown, like a Devontae Smith, rather. Great pickup for the Giants. Round 2, they get Schmitz, possibly the best center in this draft. Position of need yet again for the New York Giants. One of the biggest weaknesses of last year's Giants team was the interior offensive line. Then in round 3, when you get potentially a third round pick, which is a potentially first round talent, and Jalen Hyatt, that alone makes me feel that the Giants did deserve the A or better rating that they got from pretty much every publication, with the exception of Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated gave the Giants a B+. But very pleased with what the Giants have done. We also drafted a running back, which leads me to believe that either Gary Brightwell or Matt Breida will be the odd man out coming into the season. And many publications have already informed people that the Giants are now revisiting conversations with running back Saquon Barkley on a contract extension. Of course, many Giant fans finally want that to go to bed. We shall see what the results are of that. But I must admit, it's a very exciting time to be a fan of that division. You have the defending NFC champion Eagles. You have a Washington Commanders team that was recently sold that is going to have heightened expectations. You have a New York Giants team that made the playoffs with, in many people's eyes, a skeleton offense. But the workings of head coach Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, and upstairs Joe Shane have truly just reorganized and redone so many mistakes made from the previous regime under Dave Gettleman. And now what you're doing on defense, whether it be via free agency or what you have added in the draft, defensive coordinator Wink Martindale can really thrive. So exciting time to be a Giants fan. And last but not least, you talk your Dallas Cowboys. This is a team that, in many people's estimations, had the best defense in the NFL last year. And at minimum, the best defensive player in Micah Parsons. This is a make-or-break year for head coach Mike McCarthy, as well as quarterback Dak Prescott. And it is going to be very exciting to see how the East plays out. We also have Aaron Rodgers being traded to the Jets this week. There's just so much happening in the NFL right now that's going to be very exciting. And I still believe that although we were wrong on our show about DeAndre Hopkins getting dealt on draft day, I still think at the deadline, he will end up on a contender. I think the Arizona Cardinals may feel that they might get better value waiting till the deadline when the season's in actual play. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you all have an excellent Monday and a great, prosperous week. We will be back soon with a show, and I will have some company on that one. Just got so tied up yesterday that we were not able to get a show out, but I definitely wanted to share some of my feelings on the happenings of the sports world. So much going on right now. I wish everyone a great day. I am Richie signing off, and I'll be back soon.